workaholic, yo. Now hustle pure, no be small. I dey pray to make am. Oluwa answer on time, oh. Now you get all the money. Emo pe olowo láyé mọ́. Baba don't leave me hanging. Oluwa answer my call, yo. Mama jẹ́ ká ní bọ́dí ṣe wípé Bọ́lọ́lọ́run ni wà ó. Don't put me to shame, oh. Ẹ jọ̀wọ́ bàbá answer my call, yo. Mama jẹ́ ká ní bọ́dí rí tèmi wí. Kọ́má rí tèmi lọ, oh. I look up to you, oh. Answer my call, yo. Bàbá God, oh. Èmi náà fẹ́ wá rẹ́jọ. Dangote olórí méjì. Na bẹ́ẹ̀ gàdí bẹ́ẹ̀ gbó. Ọlọ́run ọ̀run. Èmi náà fẹ́ wá bẹ́ńtì. Ọ̀tẹ́dọ̀lá olórí méjì. Na bẹ́ẹ̀ gàdí bẹ́ẹ̀ gbó. Oya na 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 na. Oya na 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 na. Oya na 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 na. Answer my call, yo. Bàbá ṣe tèmi náà, orí mo fẹ́ dolówó, mo fẹ́ dọlọ́lá, èmi náà fẹ́ ṣoríire. Answer my call, mo fẹ́ dolówó, mo fẹ́ dọlọ́lá, èmi náà fẹ́ ṣoríire. I want your blessing, oya na 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 na, oya na 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 na, èmi náà ra bọ́ọ̀sì. Answer my call, oya na 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 na, jọ̀wọ́ na 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 na. If you see my number, baba pick up. You used to be the girl I know. Now I wish I didn't let you go. I played myself like Nintendo. Now I got to fight for you like Rambo. Please don't give up on me, yeah. I'm coming back for what I lost. Don't give up on me, I beg. One more chance is all I want. Be nice to me, yeah. I know I made a fool of myself. I go do better, oh Sabina, baby. Just give me one chance, oh Sabina. Let me fight for you, Sabina. Don't give up on me now, Sabina. I want to fight for you, Sabina. My baby, I like to know where you are. Mon baby, Napadi Ogowa. My berry, oh Nisukumo. I want to make it right, girl. Let us start again. Please don't give up on me, yeah. I'm coming back for what I lost. Don't leave me lonely, oh baby. One more chance is all I want. Be nice to me, yeah. I know I made a fool of myself. I go do better, oh Sabina, baby. Just give me one chance, oh Sabina. Will you please believe me? Sabina. Don't give up on me now, Sabina. I want to fight for you, Sabina.
Oh yeah now, shout out to my one and only. Now you be my hello bam. In came your one in a million. Shout out to my baby honey. Now you be my girl, yo. Give me your one in a billion. Animal lowo, ṣùgbọ́n àlàáfíà. Animal nílé lórí o. Ayé wa dùn bí oyin. Animal lọ́wọ́, ṣùgbọ́n ní fọkànbalẹ̀ o. Animal nílé lórí o. Òrèǹté no dey complain o. Ẹ bá mi kí o òrèǹté o. Ṣálá tún máa òrèǹté o. Ẹ bá mi kí o òrèǹté o. Dorobuchi dey toast you. You tell am say you no do, say you no go leave me. Ọmọge tó lóyà, baby mi tó ṣọ́jú, say
Okay,
you no go
I
leave
think
me.
we're good to start.
Àyìnbá lówó lọ́wọ́ o.
Okay, I think we're good to start. Hi everyone. I know we are just 4 in here, but I'll still address everybody as if we have a crowd. But oh well, this will definitely get watched by hundreds of people, hopefully. So hi everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to Azure Center event. We would try as much as possible to go straight into it without lots of other, should I say, formalities or the likes. So without further ado, I would like to introduce myself and also introduce Azure Center and also introduce our guest speaker. My name is Abisoye Falabi, and I'm your host for this event, which is getting started in Azure. If you are new to Azure or you don't know what Azure is, or you know what Azure is and you're a bit confused on where to start and where to make the next steps as regards in cloud computing, you are the right event. You might be experienced, but this course is also, you might learn one or two things from our wonderful speaker. Azure Center is a community of those of enthusiasts or hobbyists who are interested in Azure, including professionals. We'll be hosting events like this once a month, since we are currently doing remote, that is virtual events, just to keep up the momentum. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest. Our guest is Mr. Tunde Makinde. Is a cloud solution manager. I coined out that title for him myself. He's a cloud solution manager. I top of my head, I know that he used to work at Tech Experts here in Nigeria, and is currently working in an amazing company. I usually forget their name, but pardon me, it will definitely do the proper intro. So I know he has hands-on experience in cloud technologies, most especially Microsoft Cloud. So he will be running us through this. Without further ado, let us welcome Mr. Tunde Makinde.
Thank you, Bisoy. Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tunde Makinde. I'm a cloud solutions architect. Currently, I'm a cloud solution manager at Inlax Limited. So I used to work with Tech Experts back in the days. Okay, so I'm here to walk you through the fundamentals of Azure cloud computing generally. And so this session is intended to share with you how you can get started with Microsoft Azure. Just a moment, I'll be sharing my screen now. Please confirm if you can see my screen.
Okay, sir, not yet. Okay, it's loading. Yes, it is.
Okay. So getting started with Azure. Okay, so before I start, thank you, Bisoy, for organizing such a session, and thank you so much for inviting me to facilitate this particular session. Okay, so generally, what is why cloud? What is cloud computing? Let me start with a story. I can remember back then in 2011. I was having an internship with one of the IT firms in Nigeria, and it was on a Tuesday morning. The general manager just walked up to me and asked me, "Tunde, have you heard about cloud computing?" That was in 2011, and I was like, "No." So just tapped me and said, "Go and study, go and read more about it," And then I was really into networking. I was a network professional because I started my IT as a network engineer. I'm a Cisco certified network professional. So I was wondering why cloud computing, why is this man telling me to go and study about cloud computing back then in 2011 as a network engineer?
Wow.
But I'm someone that is very curious. I'm always ready to learn. So I started making research about it, started looking for one or two videos, documents online to study, to know more about cloud computing. And I think my first breakthrough was in 2014 when I had to change job and I became a cloud consultant with another IT firm, as a full-time employee. So that was when I started my cloud journey on 2014. So I had to leave my networking experience or networking background, as it were. So why cloud? Why do we need cloud? What is cloud computing? So I would start by saying cloud computing provides a form of a modern alternative to the traditional on-premise data center. And a public cloud vendor like Microsoft, AWS, Google, they are responsible for the hardware purchase, the maintenance, and they provide a wide variety of platform services that you can use. So, although as a cloud consumer, you are limited to the hardware provided by the cloud vendor, but the fun part of it is that you only have to pay for what you use. So it's a form of a pay as you go rate. It's not an estimated bill. It's pay as you go. So cloud computing or cloud environment provides an online portal experience. It makes it easy for users to manage the compute, the storage, the network, and other application resources. For example, in the Azure portal, user can create a virtual machine, configure the virtual machine based on his or her specification, pick the right VM size, and pick the right computer resources, such as the CPU, the RAM, and the local disk, the operating system, and so on. And in its simplest form, cloud computing provides an easy way to access server, storage, databases, and a broad set of application services over the internet. Cloud computing providers such as Azure, they own, like I said, they own and maintain the network connected hardware required for these applications to run seamlessly in the cloud. So what are the advantages of cloud? I have here speed. And so I did a table comparing speed, comparing the cloud environment with the traditional on-premise environment. So in terms of speed and agility, in the cloud computing environment, new IT resources can be created in just one click, and it allows organizations to reduce the time it takes to make these resources available to the IT practitioners in-house or the developers. From back in the days when you need to purchase hardware resources, it takes 2 to 3 weeks to get orders from your servers from IBM or HP. But right now, just a click away, you can configure, you can spin up or set up virtual machines or cloud resources, depending on your desire. Then in terms of the speed, also the speed, it's something, like I said, it's just a click away. Within less than 1 minute, you get your machines or virtual machines or other resources up and running. Then in terms of the capital expenditure, like I said earlier, it is a pay as you go form. There's no upfront payment, and there's no estimated cost, as it were. So in terms of the capital expenditure, instead of having to invest heavily in data centers and servers, before knowing, you just pay only for what you consume. You pay for the computing resources that you are running in the cloud, and you pay only for how much you've consumed, probably on a monthly basis. Most of the time, it's always on a monthly basis. And in terms of the economies of scales, another advantage of cloud computing is that organizations benefit from massive economies of scale. By using cloud computing, you can achieve a lower variable cost that you would get on your own. So because they are, different organizations, different businesses, different companies make use of these cloud services. So it is easy for the cloud providers to aggregate these costs together, these services together, and give you a price at the end of the month that is very low compared with running these servers within your data center or your on-premise environment. In terms of the scalability, cloud computing.
Sorry, Makime, I've muted. I think the person just had background noise. So I've muted the person.
Okay, thank you. So in terms of the scalability, with cloud computing, you don't need to guess the capacity of what you need within your environment. You can make a capacity decision prior to deploying the application. You don't have to think about, I need 10 6 gig RAM. I need to purchase this and that. Easily you can just get the particular size of application or the resources that you need in the cloud. So you don't need to guess the capacity you need. With cloud computing, organization can stop guessing about capacity requirements for their infrastructure, and they can access as much as little, or as little as they need, and scale up, when it is needed. So I can come up with a little resources to start with, and when I know that there's an increase in access to my resources, I can always scale up to meet the demand that is coming to that resources. So to that particular resource. So the scalability is very flexible. It is elastic and automatic. I can configure an auto scale whereby when I get to a particular threshold of compute, my machines or my virtual machine or my application services can always scale up, to meet up with the demand of usage. So these are the few advantages of or why we need the cloud computing in our environment.
Just to
So
interrupt you a bit,
okay.
Mr. Tunde. So are you saying that just to pick from the scalability that you mentioned and also economics of scale, so are you telling us that a one-man organization or a two-man organization can actually take advantage of the cloud? They can set up an high compute or high availability or architecture, because they are typically a one-man company or just two people or three developers. Are you telling us that with the cloud we can leverage on what is available and behave like a big company?
Definitely, like I said earlier, that the economies of scale or cloud computing is for all organization, be it the small organization, the medium, or the enterprise organization. So there's no limit to what you can achieve with cloud computing. So a one-man business can also leverage on Azure or any other cloud service provider. I can, I have a typical example. I have a customer at the moment. They are less than 5 within the organization, and they run their resources perfectly well in Azure, and they pay less than, if I convert the price or the cost of local currency, they pay less than 100,000 per month, to run those resources perfectly well in Azure. Cloud computing, in terms of economies of scales and scalability, it is for all organizations. So you're not limited. So it's not limited to enterprise environment alone. So as little as 0.1 dollar per hour, you can consume resources in Azure or any other cloud service provider. So it's for all organizations. It's not for enterprise environment alone. So a one-man business can leverage on the benefits of cloud.
Oh, thank you very much for that.
Okay, yeah, you're welcome. So our major focus at the moment is Azure. So Azure is the reason why we've gathered here, how to get started with Azure. So what is Azure? So I have here what is Azure. So talking about Azure. So Microsoft Azure has a broad spectrum of applications, like infrastructure services, mobile applications, web applications, cloud services, storage, backup and recovery, because they are together, data management, media services, and other type or other different services. Azure has hundreds of services that you can always leverage on. And I'm going to the definition of Microsoft Azure. So I'll put it in this way, that Microsoft Azure is a cloud platform for digital transformation across your business. And
Hold up, please. You just gave a very interesting definition that a number of us, I don't know if Chibueke understands the definition you just gave.
Okay.
I see you just waved. You just waved. You just gave us some very high level definition.
High level. Okay, so let me come down.
You might need to come down to our level, because you just mentioned digital transformation.
Okay.
Like, what is this man saying?
Okay, so in a nutshell, digital transformation is about just the way you transform your business, running from the way you run things traditionally in your on-premise environment, and make things more sophisticated, using the different forms of automated tools in your environment to make things, get deployed faster and the like. So let me put it that, so Microsoft Azure is a cloud platform where you can, set up different cloud models, such as infrastructure as a service for virtual machines, platform as a service, maybe serverless computing and some other things, or probably software platform as a service or software as a service. So it's just a cloud platform. And let me put it in a way that it's, when we talk about cloud, let me just add that when we talk about cloud, we are not talking about the sky or something like that. Cloud is just a data center containing different servers, and people can access these servers over the internet. That's just cloud.
Some of us might think the cloud you are referring to is the one that is over your own head, or
no, that's not cloud. So I can even have a private cloud.
Yeah.
So I can even have a private cloud in my home right now. So what I just need to set up hardware, servers, make sure people can access it over the internet, get storage, get networking devices, and start selling to people. So that's just cloud. So cloud is not something that we have outside there. It's just a terminology for that kind of setup within our environment.
Then, sorry, also to interrupt you, I'll be interrupting you a bit, just to ensure that we don't use plenty technical terms that will run some of us, that will make some of us not even know what you're saying at all. So you were mentioning some things like infrastructure as a service, software as a service. I want to believe you would help break that down for us later on during your session, because I don't want you, Weke, to just doze off or something.
Okay, no problem. So what do I mean by infrastructure as a service, software as a service, and the last one, which is platform as a service. These are called cloud models. They're just called cloud models. So it's apart from the fact that how would I put it? Depending on the requirements, the cloud computing environment is broken into these three major things, depending on what you are looking for. For instance, if I want to spin up a virtual machine, that kind of scenario is called infrastructure as a service, because I'm making use of infrastructure services just such as virtual machines, the network, the storage, and some other things. That is called infrastructure as a service. So it's basically a virtual provision of your computing resources over the cloud, and it gives you access to computing environments. And what do we mean by computing environments, such as virtual machines and the likes? So if I talking about platform as a service, so platform as a service is essentially a cloud-based whereby you can develop applications that you need within your organization. So platform as a service simplifies the process of enterprise software development. So there's the platform for you to develop your applications. That platform is provided by Microsoft or any other cloud service provider. So what you just need is to subscribe for the service, and you start developing your software applications using that particular platform. Then typical example, so the software as a service it gives you quick access to cloud-based web applications. For instance, our Google G Suite is a software as a service. Microsoft Outlook, Microsoft Office 365 is a software as a service. So these are cloud-based web applications. So these services have been developed by the cloud owners or cloud providers. So they are based on subscription model whereby people just can access them and pay, probably on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis. So, and a typical example of software as a service also is our Dropbox. If you are familiar with Dropbox, so these are software as a service solutions within the cloud environment. So,
okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for explaining that. Okay, you can ride on now, sir, with the slides, sir.
Okay, so what is Azure? So it's an open and flexible cloud platform where you can use the tools and technologies you already have, and within the environment you make use of. So you have tools and technologies within the cloud platform within Azure that you can make use of. So it's an open and flexible cloud platform that you can leverage on to develop solutions for your organizations. And so talking about Azure has different edge computing appliances that are managed by the platform. I don't want to go deep into this because they're all high-level discussions. I'll just talk briefly about them. So we have different edge platform or edge devices within the Azure environment that you can always leverage on. We have the Azure Stack. Azure Stack brings the agility and innovation of cloud computing to your on-premise environment. So we have public Azure and we have the private Azure. So the public Azure is the Azure that we access over the internet. Everybody access over the internet that sits within Microsoft data centers. While the private Azure is the one that you run It's just like bringing Azure to your on-premise environment. So you run Azure within your on-premise environment. So for instance, there are some organizations due to policies and due to policies, they don't put their data in the public cloud. And for instance, if such organization wants to leverage on Azure, they can bring Azure to their private environment, their private on-premise environment. So they call that kind of scenario Azure Stack, So Azure Stack is a different conversation entirely, but this is one of the products, this is one of the edge devices under Azure. So we have what we call serverless.
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
I want to ask a question. I was just raising my hand physically.
Okay, no
so
problem.
you've been mentioning what's it called? Bringing from private clouds, from public cloud to private cloud, and things of that nature. Are we? When you say cloud, in this instance, I just want us to like oversimplify that part, which is, are you referring to something like a data center, like if you can just connect your systems together, like maybe servers together, like have them stuck together, and then maybe people within your organization have access to it, and things of that nature. Is that the same as a private cloud, whereby various organizations or various units within an organization share resources from a particular segment, or maybe the particular IT department or something like that? And then when you're also talking about hybrid cloud, are we saying we can combine that our local environment with the cloud? Yeah.
Okay, so we have different types of cloud. We have the private, we have the hybrid cloud, and we have the public cloud. Azure is a public cloud environment where people can access these resources over the internet. While private cloud private cloud is something you run within your on-premise environment, within your organization data center. Combination of your servers, your storage, your network, everything connected together, and users access these resources. That's a private cloud. Then when we talk about public hybrid cloud is the combination of the two. So I can have my private cloud running within my data center, and I have an extension of my resources in Azure or any other cloud service provider. So that's an hybrid scenario. So an hybrid scenario is such a way that I have set of applications or set of resources running within my data center, and also as an organization, I have another set of resources running in the public cloud. So I can create a kind of connection between the private environment and the public environment. So that kind of connection is called an hybrid connection. So we call that kind of thing an hybrid cloud scenario. So for instance, we have different financial institutions in Nigeria that make use of an hybrid cloud model. So because of data sovereignty and policies from the
policies and the like.
Exactly. So they have their database they can have their database or data within the
private cloud.
Exactly, and have the application itself sitting in the public cloud, and they have what we call a connection. They call it a VPN connection, depending on the type of
site to site or whichever.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a network connection between their data center within there and the public cloud, maybe Azure, AWS, or any other cloud service. So that kind of scenario is called hybrid environments.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for clarifying that. I can see Chibuzo is nodding his head and taking notes that, okay, now this is making sense.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just calling only Chibuzo because he's the only person that has his video on and I can see his reactions. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, you can proceed, sir.
Welcome. Okay, so there's what we call serverless in Azure. So serverless computing enables developers to build applications faster, by eliminating the need for them to manage infrastructure. So with serverless applications, the cloud service provider, automatically provisions the environment for you. So what you just need to do is to deploy your code and to build your software or develop your application. So in this situation, so the traditional way of install the application is that we get the server, we get the virtual machine, we install the application, and make people to access the application. But in terms of serverless computing, I don't need virtual machine, I don't need server, I don't need an infrastructure to run my application. What I need is just a serverless computing resources, and deploy my code, then the cloud service provider run the code for me at the back end, provide the necessary things I need for my application to come up. Then I can always serve my customers from there. So serverless computing deliver more value to the core of your business by minimizing the time and resources you spend on infrastructure related requirement. For instance, now I can have an application running on a server, and I have database also running on a server that is connected to the application. As a system engineer or as a system administrator, I need to worry about updates on the server. I need to worry about the CPU is maxing out, the RAM is maxing out. But with serverless computing, I don't need to worry about that because there's no infrastructure running my application. What I just need to do is to deploy my code, while the cloud service provider like Azure or Microsoft Azure manages the back end for you and makes your application or your software to run perfectly well. So you don't need to worry. So the cloud service provider worry themselves about the infrastructure, the update and the likes. Yours is just to deploy your code and move on while you serve your customers. So serverless computing is now the major thing right now. So sorry.
I only said awesome.
Okay, so the third one is the infrastructure, which we are used to. So Azure has different infrastructure services ranging from the compute to networking, to storage, to security, to identity. So you can take advantage of high available and scalable cloud infrastructure with Azure. You only pay for the resources that you use. And also, just to add that Azure infrastructure helps you, it empowers remote productivity with the best virtual desktop experience. Just recently, Microsoft rolled out Windows Virtual Desktop, whereby, people can always run their services or their applications remotely. What do I mean by remotely? So users can always connect to these services remotely from any location. For instance, I can have a particular application. If you are conversant with Citrix is similar to Windows Virtual Desktop, whereby users can remotely access applications. This service or this application was rolled out like I think some few months ago, and during the lockdown, people really made use of this particular service, Windows Virtual Desktop. So you don't need to worry about going to your data center. You don't need to worry about infrastructure or any other thing. What you need to do is to set up the virtual desktop environment for your users and publish your applications from there. People can always access the applications within your environment. Another thing is that Azure infrastructure delivers efficiency with unified security and management capability. So it is well secured. The environment is well secured. I'm going to talk about Azure security data in the training, and but just to let you know that Azure is well secured. But that doesn't mean that you should not take care of your resources running within the platform. So Azure has provided a level of security for you to run your applications, but you also need to add like a form of the toppings. If you take ice cream regularly, you just need to add toppings to it. Provide your own level of security, probably in terms of the firewall, your inbound room, your outbound room, and some other things. So I will be talking more about security data in this course. So the next slide here. So these are the different services. These are the different services that you can leverage on in Azure. I think I'll be able to capture some of the services and not all, but these are one of the few major services that you can always leverage on in Azure. So these are the different services that can meet your business and technical requirements. So you can combine these different services together to meet your business and technical requirements. So you can have a consistent Azure platform as a service capability that brings hybrid deployment choice and portability to your cloud applications. So I have applications, I have integration, I have big compute, I can have data where I can run data warehousing within Azure environment using the Azure data warehouse resources such as the HD Insights, the analytics, the data factory, and the like. So these are the different services in Azure that can meet your application or your business and technical requirements. I'm sorry, I won't be able to go deep into these different services because of our time, but you can always learn more about these services, which I'm going to show you how you can learn about these services at the end of the class.
Okay.
Yeah. So Microsoft Azure. So I'm going to break this down into 4 pillars. So we have the productive part of Azure, we have the hybrid part, we have the open part, and we have the trusted part. So what do we mean by productive? Azure makes you to be productive by integrating all the capabilities that you need so that you don't have to patch, you don't have to patchwork things together. You don't have to, for instance, the serverless part, you don't have to worry about the infrastructure, to host your applications. Even when we talk about the infrastructure, you don't need to worry about the network, the storage too much. Microsoft Azure will take care of that. So the aim of Azure is to make you productive in whatever you are doing. And when we talk about the hybrid, I know that not everyone will live in the public cloud, like I said earlier. So Azure ensures that you have your applications and data, both within your on-premise environment and also in the public space, and have a kind of a connection between the two environments called hybrid connection. So Azure can cater for that kind of scenario also. And the third pillar, which is called open. We all have we are all aware of open source technologies out there. So Azure, is open to any form of open source technology. So you can build your applications on your own terms, using different open source technologies. So Azure is not restricted to, back in the days whereby it was restricted to just Microsoft proprietary, services or applications. But now it is now open for anybody to run open source technologies on it. Although the open source technologies are well defined, there are some open source technologies you can't run, but at least you can run a sizable amount of open source technologies within Microsoft Azure. When it comes to trust, Azure, of course, you need to be able to trust the cloud computing environment you are using. So Azure is well secured, like I said earlier. Azure is well secured, but you also need to provide another level of security within your environment. Okay, so I'll go deep dive into productivity. Please, you can always raise questions anytime. So you can always stop me to ask questions, and I'll be happy to answer your questions.
No
So when we talk
problem, sir.
about productivity, and when we talk about cloud, we think of it. So what comes to our mind is a form of a destination, where you just want to dump your resources, dump your applications, and run things from there. So at a very high level, application consists of three layers. We have the application code, where you have to code your applications, put them together, do different logic and put things together. We have the data layer, where so this is the data that your application consumes and generates for users to use. Every application works with data, and that data can come from different resources, and these sources can be in Azure. So it depends on which way, where you plan to host your data. So lastly, there's the infrastructure part, where you can run your applications on. If you are that kind of person that runs application on VMs, on servers, the infrastructure is there for you to run. If you are that kind of person that just need a serverless computing environment, Azure can make you productive in that area, where you can just deploy your code and also consume data from that particular serverless computing environment. And for customers that wants to migrate their resources from on-premise environment to Azure, there are different Azure migrating tools that can help you migrate your servers, your database, your application servers, your domain controllers from your on-premise environment to Azure. So in that kind of scenario, the customer just wants to run all these resources in the public cloud without doing any form of hybrid connection. So Azure can make you productive in any area that you are looking at. So it has this unified platform or management experience that you can always leverage on. And when you are looking to build or modernize an application, you just need to look at these different layers. Look at the layers that best suits your requirements. Is it the infrastructure part or the serverless computing part? Or you can always combine the two together. However, not all layers need to be treated the same way. Each layer is treated in a different way, but you can always combine these layers together. For example, you might want to keep your data on-premise for security and governance reasons, and move the application code and infrastructure to the cloud. So database is sitting on premise, the application is sitting in the cloud. So this kind of scenario, like I said earlier, is called an hybrid scenario that addresses specific requirements in a regulated industry. So whatever you want to do, Azure is ready to meet your need and help you start your cloud journey. Then, so we have the infrastructure for all workloads. So Azure is built for all form of workloads. So what do we mean when we say modern infrastructure? Azure infrastructure, or Azure IaaS, infrastructure as a service, offers a purpose-built IT infrastructure designed to fit your company's needs. Rather, depending on the needs, depending on your requirement, Azure infrastructure is built to meet your organization requirements or your personal requirements. So we have a combination of virtual machines that are built, to meet, to provide a large scale and a wide range of experience to meet your workload. For example, with an on-demand infrastructure, you can leverage per minute billing or per second billing, as it's fair, depending on the cloud service provider, and scale up your compute resources such as the CPU, the RAM, depending on the usage, depending on the demand. And however, you can also run different services such as SAP in the cloud. You can run VMware in the cloud. You can have your NetApp in the cloud. And also Azure is open, like I said earlier, it's an open source platform whereby you can run Linux, you can run Red Hat Linux, depending on the Linux flavor you want to run. You can run different. So Azure is not restricted to Windows operating systems alone. You can also have different flavors of operating systems, such as Linux, within the environment. And it's the best choice for workloads. So it's cost savings, easy to migrate. You can easily migrate your services or your applications to Azure. And also you have the support. The SLA is 99.99999%, depending on the type of resources you are using in Azure. So Azure is built for different workloads. So that's why I termed it infrastructure for all workloads. And okay, so like I said, it's also a serverless platform for application modernization. So nowadays, developers have moved from the regular way or the traditional way of developing applications on a server, on a VM. Now they make use of a serverless platform in order to make sure that the applications are developed or are developed and deployed faster compared to the traditional way of doing things. So one way of evaluating the different options is to look at the productivity versus infrastructure control and the level of infrastructure abstraction. What do I mean? Thinking about your infrastructure, thinking about the distraction you get from managing infrastructure, you have the serverless computing platform for your application modernization. So if you want to focus on your code and application functionality first, without having to think about the underlying infrastructure, then the option you need to worry about, then the option like serverless or Azure App Service can be the right service for you, whereby you don't need to worry about the underlying infrastructure. Azure will manage the underlying infrastructure for you. By doing this, it will help you save time, it will help you focus on your code, on your software development, rather than focusing on the infrastructure. For example, you can also containerize your applications. And what do you mean by container? So there are different serverless computing technologies. We have containers, we have the Kubernetes containers such as Kubernetes, Docker, and the likes. So there are different things that, so you can containerize your applications whereby and let Azure manage services and do the provisioning, the upgrading, the scaling of your applications for you. So Azure is also built for application modernization. People don't worry about now these developers and software developers don't worry about infrastructure again. They don't worry about anything. What they want, what is ultimate, and what they are looking for is a platform, a serverless platform where they can deploy their applications seamlessly, where they can deploy their code seamlessly, while the cloud service provider worry about the underlying infrastructure for you. So from web development to container to microservices, so these are different things that Azure can provide for, even up to artificial intelligence, which is also the game changer at the moment. Apologies, I won't be able to go deep into all those technologies because of our time. So when we talk about hybrid, Azure is hybrid by design. Like I said, we have the public Azure and we have the private Azure. The private Azure is called Azure Stack, whereby you bring Azure to your data center for those that does not want to put their data in the public cloud because of policies or regulatory reasons. So Azure is hybrid by design. So I'm going to dig deeper into what we mean by hybrid, hybrid environment or running an hybrid environment. So Okay, so talking about hybrid, hybrid is the prevalent strategy at the moment. So Microsoft delivers a consistent hybrid environment across on-premise and cloud. So Microsoft offers let me say among all the cloud service providers, I can say Microsoft offers the only truly consistent hybrid cloud experience that you are looking for. And by consistently meeting what you want, meeting your regulatory requirements or policies, and it is consistent. Whatever you put, within this hybrid cloud environment is consistent across board. So this hybrid environment unifies your DevOps experience. You can always distribute, manage, analyze data seamlessly with this hybrid environment. We have the SQL server, we have different database engines that can help you do that. And also there's what we call the Azure Data Factory that can enable cloud analytics scenarios within the environment. When we talk about identity, where you can access your data anywhere, depending, once you have the right authentication method to access the application anywhere. So there's this one identity, access anywhere. You can access your applications anywhere. And in terms of security and management, Azure, like I said earlier, Azure is well secured, and you don't need to worry about so many security features. What you just need to do is to provide another level of security depending on what you want. But in a nutshell, the environment, the platform is well secured. So this hybrid environment, or this hybrid experience, is rich when it comes to Azure cloud computing. Then in terms of open, like I said earlier, Azure supports open source ecosystem. Starting with GitHub, which was acquired by Microsoft some months ago. I don't think it's up to 1 year, probably up to 1 year plus. So, but GitHub, like we all know that GitHub is at the heart of the open source community, and will always be an open source platform that supports all developers. In fact, GitHub today is the largest developer community on the planet, with over 36 million developers from every country on earth. So collaboration, like we know that collaboration is the art of GitHub. So I think developers last year made over 1 billion contributions to the open source project, to different open source projects and private repos that are hosted on GitHub. So you can always integrate your GitHub environment with Azure, and that integration is seamless, and provide this rich experience for developers. And Azure is designed to support the open source ecosystem, like I said earlier, and from management to applications to database to middleware to infrastructure and to application framework. Azure is designed to meet any of your open source requirements. And this, with the acquisition of GitHub by Microsoft, this provides a seamless and a rich platform for developers to leverage on. So, okay, this still talks about the open source that we mentioned earlier. You can run your different open source, within Azure, from Chef to Puppet to Ansible to Terraform. There's what we call infrastructure as a code, whereby I can run different codes to provision virtual machines for me. So I don't need to be clicking create virtual machines manually. I can run code from my laptop to provision virtual machines for me in the cloud. So I just support, using Terraform. So I just support different open source technologies depending on what I want to run. I have Docker. I can run my Docker in Azure for containerization to containerize my applications, and so many other things. I can run my Python framework. So it supports Python framework and Java and different Node.js and some other application frameworks. So I just support these different open source ecosystem. Please can always stop me to ask any question. So lastly, I want to talk about the trust part, the trusted path, as it's were, when it comes to Microsoft Azure. Before you can put your data in the public cloud, depending on the cloud platform, you need to trust where your data sits. You need to trust where applications sit. So in order to help organizations meet data residency and compliance requirements, Microsoft has a worldwide network of 32 managed Azure regions operations, and they have more than 54, not 30 rather, they have more than 54 Azure managed regions, and they have thousands, hundreds of data centers within these 54 regions, and also we have in Africa, we have a data center in South Africa. We have 2 data centers in South Africa West and South Africa North at the moment. So Azure provides a modern infrastructure for all workloads, a secured and well-managed platform. Microsoft has made over $10 billion investment in their data centers in order to make sure that the environment is well developed for users experience for users. And right now, they've spent over how will I put it? They have over 3,500 security professionals. So Azure is well secured, like I said, and it has been designed to meet your regulatory or your compliance requirements. So these are the things that Microsoft have invested on the platform. In terms of the cybersecurity investment, in terms of the security professionals, Azure has a well-robust cyber defense operations center that monitors every network traffic coming to that platform. And so you are rest assured that the environment is secured for you. And okay, so enabling your journey to the cloud with different Azure services. So Azure Migration Resources support the migration of your on-premise resources to Azure or to the cloud environment. So there are different things, there are different tools that can help you migrate your servers to Azure if you plan to run your servers, your on-premise servers to Azure. And also in terms of understanding the basic principles and design principles when it comes to Azure, there are different fast track programs that you can always get online to learn more about your Azure as you plan your journey to the cloud. And also there are step-by-step interactive tutorials and hands-on learning tutorials that you can always leverage on when it comes to Microsoft Azure. So you can probably at the end of this class, you can Google Microsoft Learn. So Microsoft Learn provides a robust learning platform for you to learn and get an hands-on experience on the different services in Azure. Most of the time I tell people to go to Microsoft Learn if they are trying to learn about Azure, starting from the beginning, apart from the introductory class that I do with them, also to get hands-on experience from the beginner to the intermediate to the professional. You can always get this experience with Microsoft Learn. So you can just Google Microsoft Learn. You will see the URL that will direct you to this particular learning platform. So you can easily get experience there.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Tunde. I would like you to press break a bit because I want to ensure that we're carrying everybody along, because I know that you still have more slides you want to cover, as I can see, but I would just want to ask everybody if so far so good, if we have not been lost. I can only see Chiwebuka's face because he's sharing his video. I don't know if everybody if we're all on the same page before, because Mr. Makinde is already firing, he's already pressing accelerator and really moving into Azure as we speak. So I don't know if Subar, I don't know if I pronounced it well, Ola, Baju, Grace, I don't know if you all have understood so far what has been explained, because we are definitely recording this and we'll share with everybody who registered who couldn't make it, over 30 people. But that said, Chibuike, Sabor, Olagbaju, Grace, I don't know if you guys have questions so far, or should we allow Mr. Makinde to keep firing on?
Yes, you should go on. I was actually about to ask a question about how to learn more, these technologies, but he's already covering that. Okay. He's directed us to Microsoft Learn And I believe he will still say more things about that. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Grace, I noticed you unmuted your mic.
I have no questions for now. When I do, I'll let Mr. Tunde know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ifeoluwa Olagbaju, any question? And also Sabor.
Okay.
Subor. Yes, go ahead, sir,
Hello, can
Mr.
you hear
Fe.
me?
Yes, I can hear you. We can hear you.
I said I have no questions so far. So
Oh, okay.
following Mr. Mackenzie. So
Okay, no problem. Yeah, Subar. Subar. Okay, no problem. Yeah, Mr. Makinde, you can keep firing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I would dive into the core technologies in Azure just to pick. So what I did was to pick some few technologies and share with us because, like I said, Azure has hundreds of technologies or services within the platform, so we can't cover everything within the time frame. But I've decided to just touch base on few technologies that are available in Azure. So Azure IaaS is designed for high-end workloads, like I said earlier, and you can always scale up or scale down depending on what you want, depending on your business requirements and also the traffic, to meet up with the traffic hitting your resources or services. So Azure has all the power and flexibility of the virtual machines. You can easily run your Windows-based or Linux-based workloads in Azure. We have flexibility in sizes. You can pick different sizes of virtual machines that you want to run in Azure. And when we talk about virtual machine scale set, virtual machine scale set provides a form of auto-scaling experience for you as a cloud user in a situation whereby you run a web application, probably, for instance, a Jumia web application, and you know that probably during Black Friday, you're going to experience a high hit on the server. So you can run your web application within a virtual machine case set and set it in such a way that when my CPU gets to 90%, spin up additional instances of virtual machines for me to meet up the demand. So it provides a form of auto scaling experience for you. So that kind of thing is, I think that's what we call horizontal scaling. So with virtual machine scale set. And when it comes to availability set also provides a form of high availability for you. So in a situation whereby I'm so concerned about application downtime, and I need to make sure that my applications are running 24/7. What I need to do is to deploy my application on inside what we call availability set. So availability set, I can specify 2 or more virtual machines and have this application run on these virtual machines in such a way that when a particular machine is down, or when a particular region is down, which is rare, I can make sure that my application is running on the other virtual machine. So it provides a form of high availability for me, to make sure that my applications are up and running. So these are the different compute services under Azure. Um, so most of the time we have businesses or we have organizations that deploy their applications or their resources using any of these computing services, from the virtual machines to the virtual machine scale sets to the availability sets. And let me just put disks. So in terms of the disks part of this, in terms of the disks, we have different types of disks in Azure. We have the premium disks, we have the SSDs, the premium SSDs, and we have the regular HDDs. So depending on the experience, depending on your business requirements, you can either pick any of these disks. And we all know that SSD provides more performance compared to an HDD type disk. So Azure disks is, you can pick any of these disks depending on what you want. If you're looking at a test environment, I would advise you pick the regular HDD. But if you're looking at a production environment, you can always leverage on the SSD, which provides a faster and a more robust performance, for your application. So there are different computing options in Azure. Like I said, there are different sizes of virtual machines that you can always leverage on. We have the entry-level virtual machines. We have the the bus-stable virtual machines. The entry-level virtual machines are suited for entry-level workloads like development and test. They are economical and provide a low-cost option when you are getting started with Azure. You can always start with this entry-level virtual machines just to get one or two experience about Azure. Probably you are developing something within your test environment. You can make use of these entry-level virtual machines. Then we have the bus-stable virtual machine. These also provide a low-cost option for your workloads, and they typically run at a low to moderate baseline CPU utilization. So in such a way that, so if your application does not, your application is not really a CPU intensive application, or probably it makes use of the CPU at a certain period of time, it's a set period of the day, you can always make use of this bus-stable VM in such a way that when the application needs more CPU to run, the VM bursts your CPU utilization, making sure that you have a good performance running the application. So sometimes it bursts to significantly higher CPU utilization when the demand arises. A typical use case is probably you have a low traffic web servers, and probably that on a Black Friday you need to boost these web servers. You can make use of a bus-stable VM. So when the demand is high on that particular service, this machine knows that there's a need to boost the CPU utilization or experience for that particular workload. So you can make use of these bus-stable VMs. And these bus-stable VMs can be used for small databases, for microservices, and if you are doing a proof of concept for someone, you can always make use of this kind of low-cost VM. Then we have the general purpose VM. We have the compute intensive. If your application is more compute, if you need, if it is more compute optimized application, in terms of CPU, probably I have an application that needs higher ratio of CPU to memory. I can make use of a compute intensive virtual machine. If I need a storage optimized virtual machine for my application, we have it there. If I have a memory optimized virtual machine for my application, we also have that kind of service in Azure. Memory optimized, make sure that if, for instance, if I'm running an SQL database that I would, as we know that SQL database is memory optimized service, I can make use of this kind of virtual machine in Azure to provide a seamless experience for me running while running that particular database. So we have different options that you can always leverage on. If I'm running a high performance computing application, then I have it there. If I'm running SAP in Azure, we have virtual machines that are built for SAP, in the cloud in Azure. So we have different options that you can always leverage on. And okay, so talking about virtual machine skill set, like I said earlier, this service is built specifically to meet your auto scaling demand. So like you can spread your workload across the virtual machines in your virtual machine skill set and configure your applications in such a way that users can always connect to this workload and across this virtual machine skill set. So like we all know that auto scale allows you to have the right amount of resources running to handle the load on your application in such a way that when there's a need to increase the resources running your application, automatically with this virtual machine skill set, it auto scales and lets you auto scales depending on the demand on that application. So you can always add resources, automatically to this set of virtual machine within a virtual machine skill set. And the beauty about this is that when the demand goes down, the resources goes down also, so thereby saving costs. So for instance, if I'm running a web application and I know that there's high demand probably within 12 to 4 p.m. and I've set my my threshold in such a way that when it gets to 70%, spin up additional virtual machines automatically for me. So, and I can also set up my threshold to probably see that, okay, when I get a minimum of 30, and if I'm running less than 30% CPU or memory, run just one single VM instance for me, run two instances for me, depending on my requirements. So this service helps you to auto scale at ease, depending on how you want to, depending on your business requirement and how you want to handle your application. And
Just to pause
I
you a
have a
bit.
question, please.
Yeah, someone has a
Okay,
question. Yes. Yeah,
Okay,
go
so
please
ahead.
go ahead.
thank you, Mr. Makinde. So the previous slide before this, you mentioned how there are different, yes, there's how there are different VMs that have been purposely built to optimize, depending on the kind of uh, task you're trying to achieve. Now, for example, maybe you want to use the cloud for a SAP application or something. So let's say, and I know, of course, in Azure, one of the selling point or one of the high features is that how you can scale in and out almost automatically. So in a situation whereby, let's say I actually want to run a SAP application, but however I didn't use the one that was purposely built for SAP. Maybe I selected, based on probably my limited knowledge, you understand? So the same way I can scale up and out, can I also do that? I've selected a VM and I realized maybe down the line, I've been more exposed and I realized that, okay, I should have used a purpose built SAP, you understand? Is there a way I can still manage that? That's really my question.
Oh, thank you so much. That's a very good question. That's a very good question. So the SAP, the purpose-built SAP VM is as a pre-installed SAP image or SAP. So let me put it in such a way that it doesn't mean that I cannot run my SAP or my SAP on any other virtual machines. So I have a typical customer at the moment. In short, not even a customer, my organization. We run our SAP on a virtual machine that is not built for SAP. Right, right. So what we did was that during the lockdown, we had to move our SAP to the cloud. Although we run an hybrid environment, but we found out that there's a need to move our SAP to the cloud. So what we did was to migrate our SAP application to the cloud on a VM that is not built for SAP. And since then, I think since April to date, this VM is running fine. So it's not compulsory I run my SAP on the VM on the VM that is purposely built for SAP. But if I'm running a large SAP farm, let me put it that way, then I'm in terms of performance and experience, I might want to make use of this particular option of a purposely built SAP VM. But if I'm just running an SAP that's not that big like that, then I can always make use of any other virtual machines. At the moment, we run on our SAP on, I think it's on a general purpose VM at the moment. So it's not compulsory I run SAP on this kind of the purpose-built SAP VM, because the truth is that when it comes to cost, this purpose-built SAP VM is highly costly compared to the other VM options we have within the environment. So to answer the question, you can always run your SAP on any other virtual machines. In as much you are okay with the performance of that virtual machines at the moment, then you are good to go. Which at the moment we are okay as an organization. We're okay with the performance at the moment. Users are connecting fine to the SAP without any issues. So, and we run this, like, I think the cost is less than $700 a month to run this at the moment, and it's perfectly going on well.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you. So now, still, an extension to the question. Yes, you've answered the question, but now, using your organization as an example now. So if later in the future, you now realize that you're probably running bigger files, which means you now probably need that purpose built for SAP. Can you scale up from general purpose to purpose built, or you'd have to decommission that, then probably migrate your application, sign up for a new VM? That's my next question.
Okay, so Azure is designed in such a way that you can easily switch from any VM instance to another VM instance. So for me to move from a general purpose option to a computer to purpose-built SAP or high-performance computing environment or instance, I don't need to migrate again across. I can just change, just a click of a button, just change the size. So it's very, that I said earlier at the beginning of the class, is that Azure is very scalable and flexible. So there's flexibility when it comes to the scaling of our resources. So I don't need to migrate again. What I just need to do is just a click of a button to change my size from this particular general purpose to the purpose-built SAP, or the general purpose to the compute intensive or the graphics intensive. So that flexibility is there in Azure. So I don't need to migrate afresh or start thinking of moving again afresh. I just need to click a button to change my size, and that handles it at the back end. You know, the site changes to depend to any other option that you are looking at.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That answers it. Thank you very much.
So once you're in the cloud, once you're running your resources in the cloud, you don't need to worry about migrating again afresh. Well, you just need to click the button of change my size. You know, there's what we call sizes. So once you click on that sizes, I'll just show you, I'll try to show you a typical Azure portal. Once you just click sizes, then you can pick any size you want, and automatically, the only downtime is that the machine would restart. That's the only downtime. Apart from that, every other thing is fine. You don't need to start migrating afresh again. Okay, so in terms of storage is part of is one of the core technologies in Azure. Okay, I have here. Okay, so Azure provides a unified Azure provides a unified distributed storage system, you know, for you. So it offers durability. You can encryption at rest, encryption in transit, you know, and also a form of auto load balancing. So I have different storage options in Azure. Disk options, I have the premium, I have the standard. Like I said earlier, that the premium storage provides high performance storage for your applications or for your data, you know. So why the standard is just a little below the premium, like, obviously this premium will be is higher than, when it comes to cost, is higher than the standard. But at least the two disk storage types gives you the best, gives you a rich experience when it comes to Azure. And also in terms of so there's what we call Azure Blob. So Azure Blob is one of the type of storages that Azure offers you. You know, the word blob comes from the word binary large objects. Yeah, binary large objects. You know, blobs are basically files. You know, files that we store on our computer, such as picture, you know, Microsoft Excel files, HTML files, even our VHDs. They are all called blobs. So our VHDs reside into what we call this Azure Blob in the cloud, which is secured and scalable. And there's what we call the file storage. You know, Azure File Service, you know, enables you to set up highly available network file shares that can be accessed by using the standard server message block protocol, the SMB protocol. So this means that multiple VMs can share the same files, you know, with both read and write access. You know, just like our typical network file share within the on-premise environment. Azure offers that same experience, you know, for you also. So your virtual machines can share the same file service or files, and providing that rich read and write access. And another thing, one thing that's really special about this Azure file shares versus the file share on-premise is that you can access these files from anywhere in the world by using a URL that points to that file. So if I set up a file share and I want people to access it anywhere in the world, what I need to do is just give them the URL to that file. So once I give you the URL for election, I can give Chibuike the URL to my file share. So once he enters the URL, I give him the right authentication to go into my files, and access my files anywhere in the world. So that's the beauty about this file share versus the on-premise file server that we run. And also in terms of data transport, and there's what we call the data box. So if I have terabytes or petabytes of data to migrate to Azure, I can make use of what we call Azure Data Box. So I can purchase the Azure Data Box. Microsoft will send it down to me. I'll copy my files to that data box and ship it down to Microsoft, depending on the data center I want to run this data, my data from. So ship down my data box to Microsoft, and from there they copy my data out for me. this data is encrypted. By the way, it's an encrypted data, so they can't even see what I have in my data box. So if I have terabytes, petabytes of data to ship down to Microsoft or to migrate to Microsoft, I can make use of this data box and move my data to Azure. And any question?
None
Okay,
at all.
so you can order for a data box device from the Azure portal, and Microsoft will ship it down to your location and get started. So once you get it, you can always import your data on the data box. It's just a device. Once you get it, you can always ship it down back to Microsoft, and they'll copy out your data for you and put it on within your environment, your Azure environment, your tenant that you've created for this purpose. So we have what we call file sync. File sync is similar to our file storage, our Azure file. So file sync service allows you to catch, a number of file shares. So file sync synchronize helps you move. So for instance, I'm running an on-premise file server within my data center, and I also have file share in Azure, and I can make use of this file sync service to provide a kind of hybrid storage platform for me. So file sync allows you to catch a number of Azure file shares on your on-premise environment. So for instance, if I have some files that I access regularly within my environment, I can have the catch. So file sync can catch such files for me within my environment on my Windows, probably my users' laptops or desktop machines, and also so I have the catch copy of that file on my machine, not even the end, not the copy. The copy itself sits in Azure, but I can have the catch copy, sitting on my laptop. So that file sync gives you that kind of experience. It's a service that helps you catch your file shares within your environment. Then also file sync synchronizes your on-premise file shares or file servers to Azure, so it provides this rich hybrid experience for you. So these are few services under Azure storage that you can always leverage on. So just to touch base on the disk, we have the different disks. Like I said, we have the premium disks, we have the standard disks, we have the premium SS disks that provides high performance for your production environment. We have the standard SSD, which is cost effective for entry-level workload, and we have the standard HDD, which provides a cost effective for your development or your test environment, depending on which one you want, depending on the performance tier that you are looking at. So different Azure disks we have different Azure disks available for you to leverage on. And these disks, depending on the tier determines the cost, but they are very cheap. I think for a 1 TB standard HDD is like $40 or thereabouts a month. So these are very cheap disks that you can always leverage on. While a 1 TB premium SSD is like $146 a month to run in Azure. So these are very cheap resources that you can always leverage on. So we can be so a typical question can come up, like when it comes to replication. Also, how secure is my storage? What if the data center goes down? What if a particular data center goes down? What happens to my data? What happens to the storage? So Azure Storage stores multiple copies of your data so that it is protected from planned and unplanned events. So the planned and unplanned events could be a network or a power outage, it could be a natural disaster, it could be anything. So we have different storage application options in Azure. We have the LRS, we have the ZRS, we have the GRS. The LRS means local redundant storage. So in this scenario, Azure replicates 3 copies of your data within a particular data center. So within a single physical location, a data center, you have 3 copies of your data sitting within that data center. So if the segment of the data center is down, at least you are well assured that you have 2 copies up and running. So this is the least expensive replication option that we have in Azure. But I will not recommend it for applications that requires high availability. I will never recommend LRS for you. I would rather recommend GRS or maybe probably ZRS for you. So when it comes to ZRS is called zone redundant storage. So zone redundant storage copies your data synchronously across Azure availability zone. What do I mean by availability zone? So, so we have different data centers in a particular region. So, for instance, in South Africa region, we have South Africa West and we have South Africa North. I think it's not or south, one of the two. No, north. So within South Africa West, I have different data centers running in that particular um, area. So ability zones are those regions, are those areas like my South Africa West, South Africa North, as it were. So zone redundant storage, make sure that you have data across 3 availability zones in your primary region. So for instance, in my South Africa West region, I can have I have 3 copies running from in different data centers. So data center A or this data center B and data center C. I have copies of my data center my data running across 3 data centers within this region. So it offers high availability for your data. Then when we are talking about GRS, GRS is highly recommended for applications that needs high availability. So what it does that it keeps your data synchronized across different regions. So I can have my primary region here in Nigeria, for instance, and I have my secondary region in South Africa. So GRS make sure that I have copies within Nigeria and also within South Africa. So by virtue the Nigerian region is done, I can be rest assured that my data is well secured in South Africa, provided South Africa is up and running, which is okay to be up and running. So it makes sure that you have 3, your data is synchronized 3 times, within within a single physical location in the primary region, and also within a physical location in the secondary region. Making sure that your data is highly available. So these are the different replication options that we can leverage on in Azure when it comes to data replication. Then another core technology in Azure is the networking. So like I said earlier, that we can always leverage on hybrid connectivity between the on-premise and the public cloud. So to leverage on that kind of scenario, there's I can create what we call a VPN connection between my on-premise environment and the public cloud. So a VPN connection connects my on-premise network to my Azure virtual network. So a VPN connection is this IPsec S2S site-to-site VPN tunnel between my on-premise environment and also Azure. And this connection is across the internet, but the VPN is a secure tunnel across the internet. And I can also have a point-to-site. A point-to-site means that from a user laptop, they can securely connect to resources in Azure. So I can have my VPN installed on my user's laptop. I can have VPN installed on user's laptop, whereby they can always connect to Azure resources anywhere. So my users don't need to stay within the office environment before they can connect these resources in Azure. So there's a customer of mine that have point-to-site VPN connection for all their users. So sometimes users don't need to come to the office before they can run things. They can always run things from their laptop, provided they are connected to the point-to-site VPN of the organization. So they can always run things from their laptop or from their computers and connect to resources in Azure. And there's what we call express routes. So express routes is for private connection. So express route is a dedicated connection through a third-party connectivity provider. Unlike the VPNs, unlike the site-to-site and the point-to-site, which is a secured tunnel over the internet. If I don't want to run the VPN or the connection across the internet, I can have a dedicated connection that is private, that is not connected over the internet. So this architecture is suitable also for hybrid applications that need higher bandwidth. When higher bandwidth, higher network connectivity. So I can make use of express route. And express route is quite expensive compared to the other VPN options. Other VPN options like my site-to-site or my point-to-site express route, but it's dedicated for you alone. That is why it is expensive, just like you getting a dedicated internet within your home environment for personal use. So express route is a dedicated connection from your on-premise environment to Azure, but you have to be connected to. So we have few service providers that can help you, connect your on-premise environment to Azure. We have, for instance, in Nigeria, we have MTN. MTN is one of the few third-party connectivity provider that can help you connect your on-premise environment to Azure using the express route connection, because it is a private connection and it is dedicated to you alone. The challenge with express route is that it's complex to configure. I can't lie about that. It's very complex to configure, and it's not as simple as the VPN connections, And also, you need a VPN device that is, how do I put it? You need a redundant VPN device within your on-premise environment. So, but in a nutshell, it provides high availability for you when it comes to connection between your on-premise environment and Azure. So these are the different connectivity that you can always leverage on in Azure. So in terms of security, also, so these are also just this. So this to complement the previous slide. So we have the virtual network, we have a load balancer. I can set up a load balancer in Azure. I can have a web application firewall for my applications. I can have DDoS protection for my applications. So there are different network services that you can always leverage on in Azure to provide a well-secured environment for you. I can also have a traffic manager to make sure that my incoming traffic are well balanced, across my resources in Azure. So in terms of security, we all know that security is a major concern when it comes to cloud. And so one of the best reasons to use Azure for your application and services is to take advantage of the wide array of security tools and capabilities. These tools and capabilities make it possible to create secure solutions on Azure. So Microsoft Azure provides confidentiality, integrity, and availability of customer data, while also enabling transparency, across your data. So Microsoft does not tamper with your data. There's integrity that your data is highly available for you whenever you need it, and the platform is well secured. But like I said, apart from the fact that Azure is well secured, you also need to provide additional level of security personally for yourself, depending on your business requirements. I can decide to have a web application firewall for my applications running in Azure, to make sure that my applications are well secured. For instance, if I'm running a financial application in Azure, and I make sure and I know that my customer data are exposed in the cloud, I can always provide additional level of security apart from the ones that are provided by Microsoft. I can also provide additional level of security for my applications too, by making use of the web application firewall and some other application services in Azure. Another core technology which I would just touch on is called Azure DevOps. I know we've been hearing about DevOps. So what is So what is DevOps? What is DevOps exactly? So DevOps is a term for a group, or how do I put it? Okay, so I'll say DevOps is a term for a group of concepts that that brings people, processes, and tools together to provide a continuous value to users. So DevOps brings together people, processes, and tools, and automating software delivery. So DevOps automates software delivery to provide continuous value to users. So using Azure DevOps, you can deliver software faster and more reliably. No matter how big your IT department is, no matter irrespective of the tools that you are using, you can always leverage on Azure DevOps to deliver software faster and more reliably. And this brings continuous value to your users. So advantages or benefit of Azure DevOps or DevOps generally is that it improves software development quality and speed. Back in the days whereby software engineers go through a lot before they publish or develop publish a software. But with DevOps, you can always improve your software development quality and speed. DevOps gives you a faster experience while deploying your applications. your application using what we call continuous integration. And there's also what we call continuous delivery that ensures that your code and infrastructure are always in a production deployable state. So it makes sure that your environment is always ready for your code to be deployed, giving you a faster experience, So combining this together with continuous integration, continuous delivery and continuous integration gives you, brings value to your users. It makes sure that you automate your software delivery in a more faster way and a more robust way, and make sure that your software is deployed faster. So that's the essence of DevOps. So in a nutshell, DevOps makes sure that my softwares are deployed faster, are well automated, are deployed faster to my users or to my customers. So with continuous deployment and integration, when it comes to DevOps, you can automate the entire process from the code commit to production. So it's a value chain from your code commit to production. So DevOps handles everything from code commits to production of your software, to the publisher, or to when you are ready to publish your application or software. So DevOps is the union of people, like I said, it is the union of people, process, and tools that enables continuous delivery of your software to your users. So nowadays, application developers, they make use of DevOps in such a way that, when they're looking at a faster time to develop or to deploy their software, they make use of DevOps. And Azure provides different DevOps tools that you can always leverage on. So Azure DevOps provides a fully integrated set of enterprise DevOps services that you can always leverage on, from the Azure board to Azure code, to Azure repos rather. So for instance, Azure board helps you to track and track your work, while you are trying to deploy your application or build your application. It helps you to track your work from the beginning, from the get-go to when you complete your development. And for instance, Azure repos provide flexible and powerful Git hosting, and it helps you review your code, make sure that your code does not have bugs, make sure that you can start free. With Azure repos, you can start free and scale up to unlimited Git repositories for all your ideas. So it makes sure that it provides a kind of a Git hosting option for you within the cloud environment, with effective code review. So it helps you review your code, make sure that it helps you debug your code, make sure that your code is well written and without any form of bug. And for instance, let me just talk about Azure Pipeline. Azure Pipeline allows you to build, test, and deploy in any language. So you can build and you can test on any environment, maybe Linux, Windows environment, Mac OS, containers such as Kubernetes and the likes. With Azure Pipeline, you can always leverage on that. So Azure DevOps gives you that rich DevOps experience while you're trying to develop your software, your applications in the cloud. So, like I said earlier, Azure is open. It's an open source platform whereby you can make use of different open source DevOps services such as Terraform, Ansible, Chef, Puppet, Jenkins, and the likes, depending on the open source tool you would like to use for your environment. Azure DevOps is ready for such deployment. So, okay. So, like I said earlier, you can always Google Microsoft Learn. So Microsoft Learn is the landing page, this is the home page of what I said. So once you Google Microsoft Learn, you can start as a beginner, intermediate, or as an expert. And you have different courses that you can always learn in Azure. And there are different labs or hands-on experience that you can also get from these different courses in Azure. So from Azure fundamentals to, even things apart from even Microsoft products like Office 365, Microsoft 365, you can also learn from there too. So getting started with AI, Power BI, and the like. So there are different things that you can learn when it comes to Microsoft products and services with this Microsoft Learn platform. So it's a rich and robust learning platform for you also, because it provides that hands-on experience for you from the beginner level to the intermediate and to the professional level. So, and also if you are looking for certifications also, you can always come here to explore different certification options to to kickstart your career and demonstrate your achievements through any Microsoft certifications that you are willing to take. So I think okay, so basically that's all about getting started with Azure. I'm not really going too deep into technical parts of it because of our time, but lastly, I would just like to show us a typical Azure environment and just show us how it looks like if you register for, um, uh, if you are ready to register with Microsoft Azure. Just a moment, please. So to get, um, please confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can. We can see live scores. Now we can see the Azure portal.
Okay. I'm a football lover. I support Man U.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so to register for Azure, you can just go to azure.com /free. So you can get 1 month subscription to practice and to learn 1 or 2 things on at is it azure.com, just to be sure. Azure.com /free.
Oh, that's azure.cm.
Sorry.
Yeah, it still goes to Azure. Nice.
It goes to Azure. So I can always start free account, set up a free account, so I can get 12 months of popular free services, and sometimes I can, okay, and also I can explore Azure for 30 days depending on what I want to do. So you can have the free tier and learn 1 or 2 things about Azure. Basically, so this is a typical Azure environment. Pardon, let me increase the font size. So this is a typical Azure environment containing different services. This is my lab where I do most of my labs. So these are that, sorry, I wanted to click all services. So I have different services in Azure. I have the compute service, I have the network service, I have the storage, I have the web, I have the mobile service, I have the containers, I have the databases, I have the analytics. For people that are into data warehousing and data analytics, there's a platform for you. There are different tools for you to use for your data analysis in Azure. We have blockchain for guys that are into blockchain service. For people that are into artificial intelligence and machine learning, there's a platform for you to, there are different services that you can leverage on. For IoT, Internet of Things, which is also a game changer at the moment, Azure is rich in different IoT services. When it comes to mixed realities, Azure also has different services that you can always leverage on under mixed reality. Then, in terms of integration, there are different services when it comes to API management services for application developers, when it comes to logic apps and the likes. So, and when it comes to identity, Active Directory, Azure Active Directory. So there are different services that I can leverage on my compute, my networking. So like I said, Azure has hundreds of services that you can leverage on. So this is a typical Azure environment containing all services. Typical Azure environment containing all services depending on what you want to do. So I think that should be the, okay, so
Yeah,
thank you so much
Thank you so
for
much,
listening
Mr.
to
Tunde
me.
Makinde. Thank you very much for the time. I don't know if anybody at the moment has a question, because I have a number of questions that I might want to ask, just in case anybody might have a question who will be listening or watching this as a
Yeah.
replay.
Yes, I do. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed your lecture. Thank you.
Okay.
Meanwhile, can you say a couple of things about the Azure mixed reality services? Does it include services for AR developers and virtual reality?
Okay, I'm not an expert in that, but I will try to give you the little that I know about the mixed reality. So, mixed reality involves, combining the physical and the virtual world together, to produce, for instance, now I can be in my house at the moment and use what we call an HoloLens to present, and to be as if you are, so in the, probably at your own side, you will see me as I am seated right now, trying to present to you. So it combines the physical and the virtual world together. So if I'm to create a kind of a mixed reality, so that's where we got that name mixed what do you call it? Mixed reality. So the physical and the virtual world together. So the mixed reality, like I said, so it's a blend of the physical and the digital world, blah blah blah, like that together. So Azure is provide that platform where you can build a mixed reality application, where you can build a mixed reality solution or service for yourself. And you have to make use of one or two devices like the HoloLens. So, and this it's mixed reality is a solution that is new. Let me put it that way. It's not really a big solution at the moment because people are still trying to get and understand the usage, try to understand how it is being used, and training are still on. Different trainings are still ongoing at the moment. But it combines the physical world and the virtual world together to give you a kind of a mixed experience. So there was this Ignite last year, Ignite, or this year Ignite, I think last year Ignite, whereby one of the Microsoft staff was presenting, and she was using an HoloLens to present from where she was, and people were seeing like a virtual image of her in the hall. So the HoloLens was able to project a virtual image of the presenter. So, and also while she was speaking in English, the people the solution was also interpreting the English language to Japanese, to different language, depending on which other languages that you want you want also. So it's a combination of the two. But like I said, it's a solution that is kind of new. So people are not still really deep into it, but in a nutshell, it combines the digital world and the physical world together to give you a rich mixed reality as it were. So that's this I can answer about mixed reality because I'm not really an expert in that.
Yeah, it's okay. Thank you so much. I'm actually a student of S&T, and my supervisor has asked me to work on augmented reality in e-commerce. So she gave me two options to either develop the application I will use myself or use existing one for the experiment. So when I saw mixed reality, I got interested. Can I learn more about that on Microsoft Learn?
Yes, perfectly. You can learn more about that on Microsoft Learn. You can learn more about mixed reality on Microsoft Learn. But looking at what you painted, I'm not sure the mixed reality service we are talking about can solve what you are looking at.
Okay.
I'm not sure it can. So, what can you just brief us what the solution you're looking at, or the service, or what the problem statement?
Yeah, it's just to see how whether the use of AR can
AI. Okay.
change consumer behavior, such as their intention to buy. Are you
Sure.
following? Now
Sure. Definitely.
yes. So you mentioned bringing the image of the presenter, and
Yes.
in online shopping, if we will be able to see something the way it is, physically. Anyway, let's not distract the class, but I'll explore more on the site together.
Okay. Yeah. So you can. So based on your question, you can definitely leverage on Azure AI. Azure AI and machine learning, combining Azure AI and machine learning together, you can develop algorithms that can help you predict what people are likely to buy based on the different learning or learnings from that particular application. So combining these two services for you can create a kind of intelligent solution for you to understand what people are likely to buy. So for instance, now if I'm a how do I put it? So if I visit jumia.com regularly and I go to this particular section of probably this their complete section, probably I want to get a laptop or something. The first day, the second day I go there. The third time I go there or visit that page, I will see on my screen different how do I put it? Different information about my previous visits to that particular. I don't know, maybe we've experienced that kind of thing.
Oh, sure.
That's machine learning because so the application has learned my movement and that the application understood and understands and knows my I was able to learn my previous activity on that platform. So the next time I visit that platform, it will suggest different things for me that I can also do apart from what I've already visited, apart from the session I've already visited before. Another thing is that okay, let me give you another technical scenario. There was a time, so to give you to show you the power of artificial intelligence and machine learning. There was a time I was checking for a particular product on my phone, and hours later, I went to my laptop to do one or two things. So I checked it. So I logged into one particular website. So I accessed one particular website. What I checked on my phone, I saw information about it popping up on my laptop. I did not check this thing on my laptop. It was on my phone. So that shows the power of artificial intelligence and machine learning. So with this application, with this solution, it can create intelligent applications. So apart from public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, there's what we call intelligent cloud. And this intelligent cloud consists of consists of artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities combined together to give this rich and robust application that can always intelligently understand people movement, understand people and what people might want to purchase and that kind of to give you different options and the like. So Azure has that particular platform for you to build AI solutions or services. And also from Microsoft Learn, you can also learn more about artificial intelligence and machine learning.
All right. Thank you very much, my brother. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Tunde, really appreciate you so much.
Any other question?
Grace, do you have any questions? Ifeoluwa, do you have any questions? We have to close within the next 5 minutes.
Okay. Hi. Thank you very much, Mr. Tunde. So my question is regarding the data copies. So you said Microsoft Azure has several data centers and your data is secured because it is copied in 2s and 3s and stored in these data centers. I want to know how often that is done. Is it at the end of every day, that sort of sync? How often is that done, or monthly, yearly? How often is that done?
So it is not synchronously in such a way that it's real time. So it's a synchronous copy of your data from the primary location to the secondary location. So if I put letter A on a disk, okay, automatically data A appears in the secondary region
okay.
on that particular.
There's no synchronous. Say okay.
Yes. So it's a synchronous copy from the primary region to the secondary region.
Thank you.
Copy. Yeah, real-time transfer copy of your data. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess that's all. I think the other questions had already been answered. Just to do a recap of what has been covered so far. We first started, just a minute. So we first started out by looking at why the cloud, the benefit of the cloud, looking at traditional, then also looking at conventional cloud, new cloud, in terms of what we have in this day and age. We also spent some time as well looking at what Azure is in terms of the edge devices, serverless infrastructure, platform as a service, software as a service, infrastructure as a service. And then we also went into the various services that are available on the Microsoft Cloud. I know that this is not comprehensive. It's just showing like the segment overview for each. but we covered that as well. Then from then we moved over productive, that is some of the benefits of why the Microsoft Cloud being productive, moving from infrastructure, data, code, being able to migrate and innovate as quickly as possible. And then we also looked at infrastructure for all workload, that is Microsoft Azure. It's suitable for all infrastructure workload, from the pre-built SAP to compute services to networking services to storage services. Then we moved on to looking at hybrid, being able to combine what you have in your private cloud with your public cloud. And we also looked at some various services that are comprehensive in terms of the hybrid cloud, in terms of developer platform, DevOps, data platforms, identity, and also the security and management. Then we looked at the Azure stack, which allows us to have a mix and blend of both on-prem, that is private cloud, and the public cloud. And then we moved ahead to look at how open Microsoft is as an organization, and how things have been. Also, we mentioned the acquisition of GitHub, which is the largest community, or the largest community of open source developers on the planet, where you have a number of open source projects. Then we looked at Azure, the support Azure provides for open source, be it in management, databases, be it infrastructure, and also applications. Then we looked at the security part of Azure with a wonderful commitment of over $1 billion for this cybersecurity investment that Microsoft puts into the Azure, puts into their public cloud, which is Azure. Then finally, not finally, then we looked at the tools that are required, various tools that are used. Then we looked at Azure Core Technologies, which we looked at Azure Core Technology, the compute services, the various options of the compute and their types and their purposes. Then we looked at VM scale set, which is something that is pretty nice for anybody creating, looking at creating VMs that would definitely scale, and also multiple VMs. Then we look at Azure storage, the various storage we have, file, object, disk storage, and we also looked at Azure storage replication options. And then we moved ahead to networking, the various networking options available for hybrid connectivity, looking at site-to-site SSP, then also looked at VPN tunnels, and also looked at express routes. And Mr. Makinde went ahead to go into the infrastructures, the networking infrastructure services, the VPN, gateway, DOS protection, application gateway, load balancers, and the likes. And then security and management. We looked at security and management, the various offerings we have. And then lastly, we looked at Azure DevOps, the various tools, the various options you have in terms of being able to plan, track code, build and test, deploy, operate, and monitor the various options, various DevOps options you have under Azure DevOps. Then finally, we looked at how to start, that is what next to do. We spoke about Microsoft Learn, and we also spoke about the Azure portal. I think in all, we have been able to cover a lot for anybody who is interested in starting out on the Microsoft Azure platform. Without any further ado, we want to thank everybody for tuning in, and for people who are going to watch this replay. We want to thank and appreciate everybody for the time well spent. We know that you had options. We know that it's Saturday. You might have one or two other things you want to do. We want to thank you for the time spent. So please send your comment feedbacks for suggestions on next topics or from this session. You can just send me a message, or typically respond to the email where you get the invite from. Also, I would want to invite everybody to the WhatsApp group. We have a WhatsApp group for those who are interested in Azure. It's pretty free. I'm trying to grab the link I'm going to share it in the chat section quickly before we take our leaves. So you can just join the group should in case you have questions or have any thing you want to really discuss about Azure. So I've dropped the link on the chat in the chat section. So thank you all very much. We started out by 10 minutes past 3. Mr. Makinde started speaking 10 minutes past 3. We both started speaking by then, and this is exactly 5 p.m. So this was a 2 hours event. We thought it was going to be a 1 hour event, but as the case might be, it took 2 hours. So thank you very much for joining. Thank you all very much for the time spent. Please use the group chat. There is a link there to the WhatsApp group. Once you click the link, it takes you to the group. You'll be added to the group automatically. Thank you all very much. I really appreciate you all for your time and have a blessed weekend. Thank you very much, Mr. Makine, once again, for taking our time to be part of us today. Thank you very much. God bless. Okay. Until we all meet again, please stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you all. Okay.